We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Monday, but I'm recording this well ahead of time. Normally, I would record it the early morning hours of the day it is released, but not this one. This one is going to be strictly about emails. I've got a ton of emails to address, and I thought I'd take this opportunity, mainly because nothing happens on Sunday, and that's what I would be talking about. Secondly, I'm on the road. I'm in Georgia, and I want to give myself enough time to get set up when I get to Georgia so I can actually do a podcast in a timely manner. So I hope you understand, but people seem to like the email type of shows, and we've got a number of them, and they are interesting. So that's what we're going to do. Couple of things that are going on you probably already heard about, given that you're not hearing this till Monday. Peter Navarro, the former Trump aide that is going to jail for contempt of Congress. He's been doing everything he can to stay out of jail. He wants to stay out of jail pending appeal on his case. The judge said, yeah, no, you're going to jail. So at some point in the near future, we'll be getting a date when Peter Navarro is scheduled to go into prison. And he doesn't look like he's ready for it. He is a whiny little bitch. And it's going to be fun seeing him walk into the prison and not see him for 3 or 4 months. That'll be a come to Jesus situation for him. He'll probably think twice before he lies or even stands behind Donald Trump. The other thing that's kind of interesting is what's going on down in Florida. I know a lot of people have been talking about when is Jack Smith going to do something about Judge Aileen Cannon. She's obviously biased toward Donald Trump. She's slow walking this trial, try to help Donald Trump. And we've all been waiting for that moment in time when Jack Smith says, I've had enough. I'm going to get her kicked off the case. Well, we're not quite at that point yet, but I think we see some light at the end of the tunnel. Recently, Donald Trump's team, his lawyers, made a motion to reveal all the witnesses' names to the public, which makes no sense. There's no reason for it, save for trying to intimidate witnesses. So Jack Smith said, no, that's not going to happen. But Aileen Cannon said, no, it's cool. We're going to do it. Well, then Jack Smith came in and issued another motion, a motion of reconsideration. And he basically said to her, look, first thing you need to do is put a stay on this. Secondly, you need to reverse your decision or I'm going to the 11th Circuit. Well, she did put a stay on it, but whether she's going to reverse it, we don't know and probably won't know till this week. If she does not reverse it, then he can go to the 11th Circuit, get that overturned, and then he'll probably proceed to try to get her kicked off the case as well. I've told you before, Jack Smith's a very smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He's not worried about Judge Aileen Cannon. The reason he hasn't done it as yet, he's waiting for the right time. He's biding his time, or he's setting some traps, and this may very well be one of those said traps. But I think Judge Aileen Cannon will ultimately be kicked off the case. Now, if she's smart, she will take under advisement what Jack Smith is threatening and change it and reverse her decision. But we know Republicans, they like to double down, they like to triple down. So I'm thinking she might. And I think that's what Jack Smith is hoping for. And then he's going to ram it home and get her kicked off the case. We'll see if it plays out that way. But this is just one of many mistakes that Judge Aileen Cannon has made. And if she doesn't get gotten on this one, trust me, there's plenty more coming up as we get closer to some rough area when the trial's supposed to start. And she will be taken out of the mix at some point in the not too distant future. All right. Now, I don't know if this show is going to go shorter than normal or whatever. I might end up doing an additional show to go along with this show, but this is the show I needed to do with the emails because we got quite a few of them. So anyway, let's get down to the emails. So Mike, MAGA couldn't even get this imbecilic impeachment past the House that they control. This comes as no surprise to any sane, rational people, but when it is the GOP going to wake up to the fact that there's just not enough support or rationale for the Gates, Boebert, Green faction to be a factor. When is the right going to wake up to the fact that their own party doesn't give a damn about them? Just how fucking stupid do you have to be to support such corruption? I know there are corrupt Democrats as well, but at least they try to hide it. They don't come right up to your face and tell you that everything they're doing is self serving. For the love of God, Republicans, wake up and smell the coffee. Take care, Paul. And Paul, you're absolutely right. And actually, this stoppage of this bill was in the Senate, but we're talking about the same thing. It would have gotten to the House and they would have tried to do exactly what you're suggesting because they said they would. And that's the ironic thing. Here's a bipartisan bill to control the border, probably the most stringent plan ever devised in this country. Gave the Republicans everything they wanted, but they shut it down simply because they were afraid. Well, I won't say they, because Donald Trump was afraid that it would give Joe Biden a win. It might hurt him in the election. Little does Donnie Trump know that he'll be lucky to get to the election. And if he does, he has zero chance of winning. But Donnie wants to continue to play this game. And certainly the Republicans know that he has no chance. But for whatever reason, they have a certain amount of fear and they will do his bidding each and every motherfucking time. It's a little frustrating, but that's the way it goes. And Paul, thank you for your email. Next one starts out this way. Hi, Mike. This past Sunday, I had a family gathering with my immediate family. My mom made the mistake of bringing up politics. My sister's boyfriend is a Trumplafuck. He mentioned most of the Trumplafuck's greatest hits: Hillary's emails, Joe is a pedo, gas prices were lower, Hunter Biden, Bill Clinton, and Epstein, just to name a few. I know I pissed him off by telling him he has been lied to. It wasn't long after that I started hitting him with facts that then he and my sister left. Mom seemed horrified that I was going to vote for Biden. She kept asking me about other Republicans. While she agrees about Trump, she won't vote for Biden. She couldn't believe that I thought Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, and the rest are jokes. Her only thing against Biden is his age and his support for Roe. She didn't want to accept that Biden has helped this country. My dad doesn't seem to understand that green energy is the future and will create jobs. He is focused on how limited the electric cars are now and is afraid of being forced to buy one. Yeah, that's the plan. Everybody's going to be forced to buy an electric car. This is the ridiculousness of the Republican Party. They're constantly in fear that they're going to be forced to do something or have their guns taken away, and that's just never happened. Email goes on and says, as you said, things keep getting worse for Trump. The appeals court ruled against Donnie, as we assumed. However, there are a few things that I thought were extremely important in their ruling. They're only giving Donnie 6 days to appeal before Tanya Chutkan can resume her case. That final day is today. That's ridiculously short in court terms. In the ruling, they said Trump was an officer of the United States when he was president. That will probably come up for oral arguments starting on Thursday, which it did, in the appeal before the Supreme Court. And we know how that went. It didn't sound like the Supreme Court was really feeling the case for Colorado. It sounds like it was in the bag for Trump, but we really don't know how it's all going to shake out. We probably won't know for a couple of weeks. I also saw that Judge Engoron said that he is reviewing the case about Alan Weisselberg committing perjury. He said, depending on what he is admitted to, Judge Engoron could be able to assume all of Weisselberg's testimony was a lie. This could cost Trump even more money. It's interesting. There is a story out now that Judge Engoron sent letters to Donald Trump's lawyers, including Alina Habba, saying, yeah, I heard about this perjury stuff. What can you tell me? And of course, Donald Trump's lawyers attacked Judge Engoron by saying, what are you talking about? There's no proof. It was in the paper. I can't believe you're making judgments by what's in the paper. And then Judge Engoron responded, look, bitch, I wasn't making a judgment. This was your client's witness. What do you know? I'm asking you, what do you know? And here's the thing, if they refuse to answer and they find out that he did lie in the Engeron court, they could be complicit and culpable of some crimes too. So they better check their egos and maybe just go a little lighter this time around. Then he says, lastly, the House voted to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. I'm not surprised it failed. If I have math right, with absences and vacancies, the Republicans could lose one vote. They had three defect. They once again looked inept. If they had succeeded, the Senate would have held the trial and forced the House Republicans to show the American people how partisan and pathetic and corrupt they are. I don't know if they can try again. Eric, well, I'd heard they might try again. And the reason they would try again is apparently Steve Scalise, who's getting stem cell cancer treatments, which he ironically voted against when the issue came up, but he's getting stem cell cancer treatments. Now, presumably, he's going to be back this week. And if he is back this week, they might very well try it again, but they should be careful. Again, their margins are thin, and Mike Johnson and the other Republicans have shown a problem with being able to count. Last thing they need to do is put this up again and have them fail again. They've already looked like fools. Do they want to risk that again? I don't know. Maybe. Well, it's Republicans, so I guess that's distinctly possible. It's it's funny watching these people. Everybody's so frightened of the Republicans, but since Joe Biden has taken office, all they've done is failed, embarrassed themselves, and they've accomplished nothing. I don't know why people are so afraid of this weak ass group, the Republican Party. Things don't look good for them in November, in spite of what some people will tell you. I really believe that it's going to be a blue wave. It can't help but be anything else with the way things are playing out for the Republicans. They look absolutely ignorant and they can't help but lose. All right, the next email. Hey, Boomer. So you didn't know what a xenial is? Uh, you are all about generations, so let me inform you and anyone else who might be curious. I am curious. I don't know what a xenial is. Xenials are a micro generation between Gen X and millennials born 1977 to 83. We are known to have had an analog childhood and a digital adulthood. We experience world events and technology in a unique way. Okay, that is a micro generation. Is it a real generation? Is it a real thing? Because I know being born in 1960, the late stages of the boomer generation, some people have come to me and said, no, you're in Generation Jones. No, I'm not. Google the fucker. I don't see any reference to Generation Jones in terms of how they break down to generations. But, I'm not going to piss on your Cheerios. If you're a Xennial, cool. 77 to 83. That's ironic, the year you were born. I graduated from high school in 78 and was married in 1983. So you were this tiny little child while I was trying to go on with my life. Thanks for making me feel fucking old. Now that we have that out of the way, let me thank you again for bringing my political news every morning on the way to work. No problem at all. I enjoy doing it, and I'm amazed and appreciate all the people that pay attention, especially you. I said that. She didn't say that. I know we're talking a lot about the primary and court cases right now, but something that bothers me is that we are not talking so much about the Israel Hamas war. Our news is very one sided. I'm curious what your thoughts are about helping fund genocide. I know that comes across like I want to start a fight, but how many people have to die for Israel to have a vengeance? I've traveled to the West Bank in 2022 and had an incredible experience meeting people there. I also experienced a bomb going off 2 blocks from my hotel and Israeli drones coming in. There is so much going on in the world, and I feel like the giant orange Cheeto is sucking up more oxygen than he deserves. Well, you're absolutely right. He is sucking up more oxygen than he deserves. Um, in terms of talking about Israel Hamas war, I don't typically do that. And the reason I don't do that, well, there's two reasons. It's a no win situation. No matter what I say, somebody's going to be pissed. Okay. But more importantly than that, I don't have an opinion on it because I don't know enough about it. We got a few problems in this country that we need to address, and I want to get those out of the way before I worry about what's going on in another country. I know we're talking about deaths and it's tragic, but this stuff has been going on for decades. It's been going on literally for decades. There have been leaders that thought they had this thing fixed, and then, of course, we get another war. I'm not trying to diminish it or make it not important because I know it is. But I also know I'm a big dumb white guy sitting in my living room that doesn't know fuck all about it. And I think most people that don't know anything about it feel compelled to give their opinion. And you can't help but look stupid in that case. Maybe I should learn more about it. But as I say, I'm kind of focused on the multitudes of problems we have in this country. And I can't get too caught up in it. I don't have a dog in the race. Let's put it that way. So I don't typically talk about it. I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about it or other people shouldn't talk about it. I just don't believe that I'm qualified to talk about it. I don't think that I know anything. Um, I know that Hamas is a terrorist organization, and I know that Israel has done some horrific things with regards to the people in the Gaza Strip. To me, it sounds like both sides have some serious issues. I can't honestly say I'd like either side. Um, they both have problems. The people I'm side with, I'll put it this way, are the people in the Gaza Strip that are completely innocent. Just because they're in the Gaza Strip doesn't mean they're part of Hamas. And they're caught up in the collateral damage, if you will. And I'm sad for them and I hope for better things for them. But once again, I'm a big dumb white guy sitting in my living room that doesn't know anything about it. Discretion's the better part of valor, and I should not wade into it unless I know more about it. Now, and you're right, Donald Trump takes up all the oxygen, not just for that issue, but for all fucking issues. That's why we need to get him out of the equation. The email goes on to say, I plan to get more into things in another email going forward, as I know you can't read a dissertation, but let's just end with a quick remark on the Retrumplifucks. Have they all given up trying to even tread water and are now just diving down into the whirlpool of death? Is the toilet clogged? Someone get one hell of a plunger and just get rid of these idiots. Proud to be from Colorado, where we kick that ass munch off the ballot. Mountain Mama. Um, yeah, it does seem like there's a certain amount of self destruction going on with the Republican Party. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's ego or the cult of personality, where they just continue to double down, triple down, quadruple down. Even when they're wrong, they can't acknowledge it and back off from it. They'd rather go off the cliff than try to correct their situation. I don't know what it is. It's obviously this whole Trump thing, and like I say, this cult of personality. Um, we've seen cults before, and they have to go through deprogramming to get their mindset right. I don't know if that's what we have to do with Trump fans, but it's starting to look like it. It truly is. And as for you being from Colorado, thank you for what you did about taking Donald Trump off the ballot. I'm not sure the Supreme Court is going to help you out in this one. The next thing I'd like you to do, I doubt that you're in the district, maybe you are, but let's get Lauren Boebert out of the fucking realm of politics completely. Let's let's end that one because that's not going to fix anything, but it couldn't hurt. It couldn't hurt at all. All right. Next email. I'm wondering if Kevin McCarthy might be picked to replace Romney McDaniel since he has been known as a very good fundraiser. I was asked that by Jace, who was on the show yesterday, and I don't think Kevin McCarthy would even consider being the RNC chairman because that would be quite a demotion from being Speaker of the House to head of the RNC. Yeah, he's a good at fundraising, and the Republicans may want him to be on there, but I think he's so butthurt about the Republicans and how he's been treated. I can't imagine why he would take that job. It's a demotion. It's embarrassing. And he looks like he's more intent on hurting the Republicans than helping them at this point. Goes on to say, saw a good meme today, something to the effect of, my favorite thing I've seen come out of the Taylor Swift controversy is a new term for all the alpha males who are always getting butthurt and are threatened by strong women. Bro flakes. I like that. I like that. Bro flakes. I may steal that. She goes on to say, I still like the term PABs too, though. Pussy ass bitches. Now, see, that's one I stole too. And I stole that from Chrissy Teigen. It was a tweet, and she was mad at Donald Trump and called him a pussy ass bitch. The thought of Chrissy Teigen saying that just intrigued me. I like the term. So, as I've said, I stole it too. Wraps up by saying, thanks for all you post for us each day. Peg HM Chicago Suburbs. Thank you very much, Peg. I appreciate it immensely. All right. The next one. Hi, Mike. Jesus Christ, these Republicans can't help but lose. Look fucking stupid and get nothing accomplished. They had 2 failed votes yesterday. Today, they don't pass the border bill that they had negotiated to give themselves basically everything they wanted. Now they'll expect their voters to continue to believe that the border is the huge crisis, but it can't be solved till next year. I'm sure some will believe it. Yeah, of course, the base certainly will. Goes on to say, I had thought earlier today, thinking about the Colorado case before the Supreme Court. One of the things that the Colorado court found as a fact was that Trump committed insurrection. Legal Dad on TikTok pointed out when this case was before the Colorado Supreme Court that typically appeals courts do not overturn the things found as facts. That would mean, unless this Supreme Court really goes off the rails, they won't deny the fact that Trump committed insurrection. Could Jack Smith use that in the January 6th case? How much more damning evidence could there be in the Supreme Court already agreeing that January 6th was an insurrection that Trump incited and participated in? Well, Legal Dad knows more about the law than I do, and I'm impressed by his page. I watch it frequently. As far as the Supreme Court not being able to overturn the facts, as far as him committing insurrection, I think that's true, and that's really not the question for the Supreme Court. The question is simple. The question is, can they keep him off the ballot? I've said this before. If they are true originalist, as they state, they would have to go along with the Colorado Supreme Court. But as we heard in the oral arguments, and the sense we got from the Supreme Court, they seem to be looking for a loophole, an off ramp, if you will, so they don't have to decide this. And as I've said before, one loophole I've thought of was the fact that they want to keep them off the ballot. But if you read the 14th Amendment, the third article, it basically says anybody that's found guilty of insurrection or helping people that commit insurrection cannot hold office. Doesn't say they can't be on the ballot. So if the Supreme Court wanted to do this, what they could essentially do is say, well, we can't decide this now because it doesn't specifically say it. So we'll have to wait until it's imminent that he's going to be in office, and then we can revisit this, which will be too fucking late because that could extend out over years through the entire term. Fortunately, I don't see Donald Trump having any prayer at all of becoming president. Now, the Supreme Court could save everybody a lot of trouble, take him out of the equation, and settle things down in this country. That would be the thing, the smart thing for the Supreme Court to do. But we know from past experiences, they don't do the smart thing. They do the thing that gives conservatives and Republicans the advantage. I don't know what to think that's going to happen. I'm not counting on anything big or right coming out of the Supreme Court. I mean, I could be surprised. I saw one lawyer that was the prosecution in this case said that, when we did this with the Colorado Supreme Court, they asked a lot of hard questions too, and it looked like they may not side with us, but they did after they look at the laws. I hope that's the case with the Supreme Court. I hope that's what happens. But what we found out about the Supreme Court is that rule of law doesn't mean jack shit to them. So I'm not too confident in that. Email goes on to say, I'm wondering when Jack Smith is going to take Aileen Cannon to task in the 11th Circuit. And we talked about that earlier. Aileen Cannon has kind of stepped in it with this willingness to release all the witnesses' names. Jack Smith has sent her this reconsideration notice. If she doesn't follow up with it and actually reconsider and not release those names, Jack will definitely be going to the 11th Circuit, and that should be an interesting shit show. We know the only reason he wants that information is to try to intimidate and harass them. Yeah, what else could it be? What would possibly be the reason for releasing the witnesses' names? We know witnesses and juries and judges and court people, they're constantly getting harassed and threatened by Trump-la-fucks. Donald Trump knows this. And if he can intimidate those folks, then he wants to do it. Again, this is such a stupid decision by Aileen Cannon. She would most certainly be overturned by the 11th Circuit. And presumably this would be egregious enough where Jack Smith would try to get her kicked off the case. I think that's his ultimate goal. Goes on to say, surely he has enough against her to get the 11th Circuit to force her recusal. I know we don't need this case. However, I think that every time she rules in favor just reinforces his delusion that other cases are partisan, unfair, and corrupt. I want her removed not to just push the case along, but to devastate Trump mentally. We need to take away any hope he has. I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely could not agree with you more. This is definitely what we need to do. And don't sell Jack Smith short. I think that was his plan all along. He's been biding his time. And I think we finally come to that point where he's going to start getting up in her shit, as it were. Lastly, I was thinking about what you said about removing Merrick Garland as Attorney General. I've got two names to throw in the mix, Letitia James or Fani Willis. Either one would make Trump-la-fuck's head explode. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I agree with you, Eric. They would be excellent people to put in the AG's job. There's a couple of other choices I would think. Maybe Stacey Abrams. She might be a real good one to put in there. She is a fantastic political mind, and she's being wasted because she doesn't hold a position right now. She hasn't had much luck in her races in Georgia, but she's invaluable, and we should consider that. But in the previous podcast, Ed made a great suggestion, and I particularly like it because she's from my home state. She's a Minnesota homie, and he suggested Amy Klobuchar. She is a former prosecutor. She knows her shit, and she would be a good AG, and she wouldn't fuck around and be timid like Merrick Garland. So that's a distinct possibility. Maybe we get Amy Klobuchar. I don't think we're going to see any change with the Attorney General until after the election at the earliest, or at least until these cases are done. The idea that we have all these criminal cases going on against Donald Trump and we get rid of the AG, that could create a lot of mess that we don't fucking need. Let's get through this, get this done, get Donald Trump convicted, and then Merrick Garland needs his fucking walking papers. He has been a failure as far as I'm concerned. He's been a wimp, and that's the last thing we need for an attorney general. Somebody who is a fucking wimp. All right, we are going to take a break, and we'll be right back. All right, we are back on what is an all email show. You either like it or you hate it, but nonetheless, it is what it is. All right, the next email. Hey, Mike, my name is Dennis, a younger boomer from your neighbor to the south in Iowa. I'm listening to one of your podcasts. I like Eric. I'm a unicorn in Iowa. I heard his email about a family gathering with Eric from down here about his sister and his significant other. I have many family members that just don't get it. First, a sister and a brother in law that just screamed that Biden hasn't done anything and the dumb fuck Trump did more for this country than anyone before as a president. Whenever people like that say that to me, okay, list them for me. Listen to me what Donald Trump has done, and then I'll give you a list of what Joe Biden has done, and then we'll see who wins. They never want to do that because even if they believe that Donald Trump did a lot, they're not smart enough to recall anything that he's done. They might say, well, he shored up the border. And I always say, well, if he shored up the border, why do we have a problem now? He goes on to say, I've tried to tell them that he has done nothing for the average person and coddles to the rich. They always come back and they had less taxes taken out when Trump was in office. I then come back with, yeah, but how is your check now? They come back with lower because of Biden. I argue that it was a short term deal that their Lord and Savior put in place, and that after 4 years, the taxes went back up for them, but not for the top wealthiest. They just don't get it. No, of course they don't. They don't want to get it. They also scream about Hillary Clinton's emails. Can't we be done with that already? They've never found any issues. She's been deposed and she's testified for hours and hours. Not one fucking indictment. Not one indictment. He says, I rebut what they have found in 6 years. Then it's Hunter Biden's illegal dealings. There again, I ask, what have they found since they've started looking at it? They just don't get it. Second and more hurtful is my oldest son of age 41. He's also an orange goo lover. I try to talk to him, but anything in regards to Trump, the latest conversation I tried to have with him is dumbfuck Trump saying he was going to be a dictator. He always answers a question with a question. He asked, what's wrong with that? I simply reply, other than that's what we broke away from in 1776. What more do you need? Then ask, what about mask mandates and mandating vaccines? Frustrating. He also is a big gun advocate and is afraid that his right will be taken away. I argue that is not his right and it won't be taken away. But we need to amend the Constitution to get rid of the automatic and semi automatic weapons. He then says that it is the right to have as many weapons as he can. Now, I agree that it is a right to own arms, but when the Constitution was written, they didn't have the type of weapons and ammunition they do today, meant to be used for military. He just doesn't get it either. It doesn't matter how many facts I throw at them. They just refuse to see the facts or answers questions with questions. Part of me wants the dumb fuck to get the nomination and then get his ass wiped figuratively and literally. Even better, gets put away for 25 to 30 years with just a few of the charges. I know you always say he only needs one or two, but I want the dumb fucker put away with no chance of seeing daylight again. Thanks, Dennis in Iowa. That's interesting, Dennis. Here you are, a boomer who is against Trump, talking to your millennial son, and he loves Trump. Yeah, there's some of them out there, and this is all based on fear. It's the bullshit that the Republicans have trolled out, and people are fearful. They were fearful of Barack Obama taking their guns. What in fact happened, more guns were sold during Obama's 8 years than ever before. It's all bullshit. And it's sad that people that are in your family, presumably love, buy the bullshit. And then when dad tells his son that that's not true, he instead chooses to believe Fox News or Donald Trump. That's a sad state of affairs. Now, my sons are 36 and 30. Thankfully, they have reasonable minds. Thankfully, they agree with the things I say. They don't particularly like the fact that I'm loud about it, but they do agree with it. And I got to tell you, I have enough pull over those clowns right now that if they did come to me and say they like Donald Trump, I'd put those dumb motherfuckers on a timeout and take away everything I gave to them. Fortunately, I don't have to do that, but I understand your pain, Dennis. I have some family members that I don't talk to now. And that's really the point, Dennis. You can't argue with these people. I have tried so many times. They don't listen to facts. They can't comprehend the truth. They only want to hear what they want to hear, and they spew and parrot the bullshit that they hear from their leaders. It's a sad commentary, but I look at some of the Trumplafucks that I've dealt with, even the ones in my family, and I just feel like they're a lost cause, you know? Even after Donald Trump gets his ass wiped in the election or goes to jail for 30 years, they still won't get it. They still won't get it. They are too indoctrinated into this world of bullshit. And it's unfortunate, but all we can do is watch the Republicans continue to lose, Democrats continue to win, and we live our best life. And sometimes people fall by the wayside because of their own fucking stupidity. I don't know what I'd do if it was my own son. That would be very difficult. But I have a sister and a brother-in-law I haven't talked to in 3 years, and don't miss them. Don't miss them at all. All right. Next up, if I got kind of this one says, Boomer, I'm writing for the first time as I was moved by your responses to email writers who are very worried about our country's future. I have been listening to your podcast for about a year, and I've always found you to be a patient, kind, and respectful host. However, there's always a however. Recently, I've noticed that you have been abrupt and dismissive to a few of your listeners. I thought that you were unable to even consider the fact that some people were fearful, even if they have been listening to your podcast for a while. It is my humble opinion that you're scaring away listeners from sharing these fears with you. In the past week or so, you were upset with two different listeners who stated their fear that Trump may be getting away with his crimes because of the delays in the court cases. I agree with you in that it certainly appears Trump will be prosecuted for several of his crimes prior to the election, but it's not certain. Nothing is. For example, there could be a hung jury if only one juror refuses. I agree that the evidence is very strong, but we're talking about possible Trumplafucks being on the jury. It makes me concerned. Maybe I'm just a pussy ass bitch, but I've heard reports from an intelligent critic of Trump who said that Republicans in many red states have passed laws to slow down voters from registering to the vote enough to swing the votes to the Electoral College toward Trump. This reporter was Fareed Zakaria. He pointed out that the 2020 election, the vote in some of these states, Biden won less than 0.1% of the vote. Certainly, that is enough to consider being concerned. A couple of months ago, you appeared angered after a listener wanted to discuss the Project 2025. Here again, you seem to admonish this person. Please consider that after our country survived the Nazi era, it certainly is possible that such a proposal can become reality, even if the odds are against it. Are you aware that in hundreds of pages of this proposal written and supported by billionaires, that there is a detailed plan for eliminating Social Security and Medicare and replacing it with a mandatory privatized plan for each? Do you think it is not at all possible for ultra conservatives to get behind something like this? This is going to be a good response. All I'm saying that I plead with you to allow such thoughts on your show. This will only result in increased motivation for your people to vote in the fall. I sincerely appreciate it if you choose to air this email, and if you don't, I will forgive you because of all the good you have done. Of course, I'm going to read the fucking email. Boris S. All right. Boris, you're kind of misrepresenting something. You're suggesting that I push away people who are afraid. Let me tell you something, Boris. When I do my TikToks every day, multiple times a day, I get people who are fearful and they reach out to me and I respond to every one of them. I don't do anything of the sort. I don't dissuade people that have fears to comment on the show. What I do is I get angry when people start listening to the bullshit from the Trumplafucks and start stating it as fact, as many of these people have. Let's talk about Project 2025. I say it's not going to happen. And you say, well, if the Republicans get in, they could possibly do it. Let me explain something to you, and you got to look at this a little fucking deeper than it is. Even if Donald Trump wins in November, and there is literally no way he can, even if he does, in order to accomplish anything that you are worried about with 2025, they've got the Republicans got to control the House and the Senate and the presidency. Do you really think that's going to happen in 2024? It's not just Donald Trump winning the presidency and everything goes to hell. If the Democrats hold the Senate or the House or both, Donald Trump is hamstrung. He can't do fucking anything. I talked about this with somebody previously. The 2025 thing, the reason I don't want to talk about it is because it's not a real thing. It's a manifesto that some fuck ups wrote. The moment I put it on the show and continue to talk about it show after show, I give it power. I give it credibility. The very thing that the media did to Donald Trump. Donald Trump was a joke when he started out. By the time it was over, the media made him legitimate. Secondly, I don't want people to be fearful. And that's all that document is. It's just a document right now. Billionaires want a lot of shit, but they don't get a lot of shit. It depends on who's in power. And the idea that I'm going to sit here and whine and cry and clutch my pearls because what could happen if the world ends seems to me to be a waste of time. And I'm causing fear amongst people who shouldn't be fearful. I'm just the opposite of what you're saying. I don't have problems listening to people's fears. I hear them every day, all day, and I respond to them. I don't have any animosity towards somebody who's fearful about what's going on. I'm not surprised. I'm not fearful because I think I know better and I'm good with that. But I don't discount people because they're fearful. My point is when we talk about something and you start spewing facts that come directly from the Republicans, I'm saying to myself, listen, you're not paying attention. You're buying into the bullshit. And this is how the Democrats get beat, by buying into the bullshit. Oh my God, Donald Trump is winning in the polls. People say, oh, Jesus, if he's winning in the polls, maybe I shouldn't even bother to vote. No. In this case, in this situation right now, we are fighting for our very democratic lives. This is not a time to be passive, apathetic. The reason we are in this situation right now is because we are passive and apathetic for decades. They ran roughshod over us because we let them do it. Had we been tough in the beginning, we wouldn't be in this position. I don't have any problem with people who have fears. There's tons of people with fears, and I talk to them every day. But if you're in a fight and you tell me, oh, I'm so worried we're going to lose, then I know that you're not any value to us in the fight. You've always already had this predetermined notion that we're going to lose. You're not somebody I want fighting with us because you're not going to be of any help to us. And I thought it was interesting that you suggested if I was a little nicer, I'd get more people to listen to my podcast. Boris, do you think I'm doing this because I'm trying to rack up listeners? No, in fact, it's quite the opposite. I did this not knowing if I would get any followers on TikTok or any listeners on the podcast. I thought about ways I could game the system, how I could say this or do this or look like this or say, do whatever. And then I said, you know what? No matter what I do, it may not work. So I'm just going to put the chips on the table and just do what I do. There's nothing fancy about my TikToks, nothing fancy about my podcast. It's an old white guy sitting in the living room. And if I get a lot of followers, cool. But if I don't get a lot of followers and I have 100 people that are loyal, I'm good with that too. Long as I have somebody to talk to, I'm fine with it. And the number of followers I have, I don't care. Frankly, if I didn't get another follower or another listener or viewer on the podcast, I'm good with that. I'm content with the crowd we have right now. So don't try to tell me that I'm looking for I should be looking for ways to enhance my brand. I can't. I'm not looking for fame and I'm not looking for money. I'm looking to actually make a difference ultimately. And I don't know if I can. But this is the only option I have, so I'm going to fucking do it in spite of what anybody else thinks. That's how I started it and that's how I'll continue it, and I'm not going to change that. And in terms of being angry, I'm not angry per se because I'm not the kind of guy that go flies off the handle. You'll never see me yell and scream at anybody. I just don't do that. Never. Well, I won't say never, but I haven't for a couple of decades. It's because getting crazy and getting upset doesn't work. It makes things worse. And if that's what I have to do to get people to listen, I don't care. I don't need those kind of listeners. Boris, you can think whatever you want. You tell me you're concerned about this because you heard from a respected reporter that is against Trump, Fareed Zakaria. Now, I'll grant you, he's a very good reporter. He is. I don't watch him much. Something about him that bugs me, but he's legitimate and he's good. But here's where the problem with that is. The problem is what I've been telling you all along. The media isn't there to inform you. They are there to whip you up into a frenzy and scare you, like talking about 2025 or polls that are bullshit. They want to whip you up and make you afraid and not tell you the whole story so you continue to watch and they translate that into money. What I'm doing is the opposite. What I'm doing, presumably in the media's mind, wouldn't garner an audience and wouldn't make any money. Now, I'm not making a lot of money doing this, but the audience is pretty good for an old white guy sitting in his living room. There comes a time when you have to have confidence. I'll tell you this, confidence is the most important thing you have in your life. Too many people walk into situations and they go, oh, I'm going to lose. So you know what's going to happen? You're going to lose. I walk into every situation expecting to win. Now, that doesn't mean I go in and win every time, but I win more often than not because of the mindset and because I've looked at the situation ahead of time. See, the thing about it is, Boris, people walk into these situations, they hear what they hear, and it's all about emotions. Emotions aren't meant to control you. You are meant to control your emotions. And when your emotions get away from you, you get anxious. And maybe I'm weird, but I take all emotions out of anything that I'm looking at in politics. I try to compartmentalize it and just look at logic and facts. And if we're talking about Donald Trump winning the presidency, I honestly believe there is no path to do it. He lost by 7 million votes in 2020. He has done nothing to gain support or votes since that time. In fact, he's done many things like accepting the responsibility for overturning Roe v. Wade. Um, so he's lost support and he's lost voters, in spite of what Fareed Zakaria tells you or any other media guy tells you. The facts are the facts. I had people like you and people like the other people tell me, oh my God, the red wave's coming in 2022. I said, no, it's not. It's not going to be a red wave. Not because I knew something special or I had some paranormal ability, because the facts didn't support that. And in this case, the facts don't support Donald Trump winning. The facts do support Joe Biden winning. The facts do support that they'll get the House and probably the Senate. That's what the facts predict. And when people come to me and say, well, I heard this and I heard that, it does make me angry because I know where that information came from. Not a good source. It came from the ether created by Republicans. And the moment we start believing Republicans, we're back in the situation we've been in for decades, getting our ass kicked by the Republicans. Now, if you think I'm angry about that, I am kind of angry about it because my life is pretty set, but my granddaughter's not. If they're allowed to get away with what they're going to get away with, her life is going to be miserable. And when I'm on my deathbed, I'm going to have huge regrets. So I want to make sure she's good, she's fine when I'm gone. And the only way to do that is to be tough and fight instead of sitting in the corner in a fetal position, whining about all this shit that the Republicans are throwing out there and us believing it. Stop believing the shit. The facts are the facts. Take the emotions out of it. Jesus. So, Boris, you can be mad at me or you can do whatever you want, but I read your email and I have no problem reading any negative emails. I can be wrong. I understand that. My wife points it out daily, and I've been married 40 years. So, this isn't a new thing for me. But in this situation, I feel pretty confident. And I will always feel confident about anything that I have going. All right. Next email. Hi, Boomer. Good grief. Another great guest. I found myself in violent agreement with Tony quite often. Yeah, Tony does a good job. He's a smart man. First, in his full throated confidence in the stupidity of the Republican electorate, enough stupidity for them to move right past the failed border legislation, yet blame Joe Biden. And plenty of stupid left over for red hat women to vote for abortion rights as a discrete ballot issue, yet still vote for the candidate that removes those rights in the election. I think he was also spot on with the Supremes that don't have courage to do the right thing in the 14th Amendment case. Yeah, and I agree with that. And I share his maybe not popular opinion that underneath the shell, Mitch is patriotic at least, which makes his current apparent impotence even more disappointing. I think he may have started out as patriotic, but this is all about money and power with Mitch. I don't care. And you can't be about money and power and be patriotic. The two just don't match up. He goes on, and he cracked me up earlier with his phrase mocking Republican senators. Here, take my dick and do what you will. That's a humdinger. Best garage door, Jeff. Republicans remind me of Dennis Weaver in that old movie Duel. Remember that one, Boomer? Yeah, I think I do. And truth and justice and reckoning are the sinister 18-wheeler filling up his rearview mirror. And who but Dennis Weaver could make 90 minutes of looking in a rearview mirror exciting? God rest his soul. Well, thank you very much, Garage Door Jeff, and I concur. Tony did a hell of a job. And let's be honest, any of you can do a hell of a job. Many of you already have. And I encourage people to come on the show and talk their mind, like Boris. Boris, you have some opinions, and you and I don't necessarily agree, and that's cool. It doesn't have to be adversarial. All you have to do is email me at rationalboomer@gmail.com. Tell me when you want to come on. We'll get it worked out. We'll get it set up. Come on. Think it could be an interesting conversation. All right. Next one is from David. I hope the Supreme Court allows Trump to stay on all the ballots. I don't want to hear Trump use it as an excuse when he gets his ass handed to him, wrapped in his dirty diaper in November. I'm kind of in that same boat. I'd like to see him lose the Supreme Court case, but at the same time, I'd like to see him stick around as long as he can. And the reason for that is if Donald Trump is the nominee ultimately, the longer he stays, when he finally does go down, assuming he does go down, the Republicans are going to be caught short and they're going to have to scramble to get a replacement and mount some kind of attack for 2024. And it will just not, it just won't be enough time. Now, people will say, what about Haley? Well, Haley, to be perfectly honest with you, if Donald Trump sticks around long enough, I don't know that she continues to make it past Super Tuesday. After she gets a clean sweep against her, nobody's going to want to give her money. Once she runs out of money, she's fucking done. So I don't know that Nikki Haley will be able to stick around. She's just waiting for Donald Trump to keel over and hoping against hope that that happens, and then she can pop in by default. All right. The next email. Hello, Boomer. Great podcast today. Tony was a bit of a bucket of ice water. Apparently, he has a pretty good account of American history. He knows what America is really about. Yeah, he does. He's a smarter guy than I am. The accumulation and control of all wealth and political power by and for the benefit of right Christian men who historically have laid claim of ownership of this country based on their self proclaimed superiority. It is well documented, but has never been discussed in detail. Our political system and our courts are controlled by these people. Like Tony said, the Supreme Court is basically bought and paid for and is totally compromised, as well as branches of the government. Their leadership and control, especially the past 40 to 50 years, has caused the worst economic and foreign policy disasters in history. As Tony pointed out, we are not the greatest country in the world, and I don't really think we were. I agree we are rapidly approaching third world level, and indeed there are entire states that are third world countries. We are denied improvement to education, healthcare, infrastructure, better salaries, all because doing so would mean no profit or less profit. I'm not convinced that companies can't pay people with benefits and salaries and still not make a profit. They're making record profits. They could pay people properly. It's just about greed. He goes on to say, personally, I think with governors of red states basically going rogue, we may be seeing the beginning of a national divorce. I think it's quite feasible. The blue states, which includes California, hold about 80% of the GDP. One of these days, they're going to tell DC to screw itself. America is about money. Nothing else matters. I think a big part of the population is aware of this, and the fact that the power is going to everything possible to allow progressive European type policies to ever happen here. Like you said, we have a very long road ahead of us. This is going to be a long year, Z-Man. I agree with you, Z-Man. By the way, Z-Man, you're one of the guys that Boris is complaining about being too hard on. I was too hard on the Z-Man. But here's the deal. We can have a conversation. We can disagree. I can call him out. He can call me out. But guess what? Me and Z-Man still cool, as far as I'm concerned. All right. The next email. Hey, Boomer, I've been catching up on your podcast. Here's my summary. This reply is delinquent of for Old Soul's latest conversation. Re the 15-year-old, her mother bringing her to safety, and what the father may do. Number one, first I had to pull over because I was crying. I could not imagine what that sweet teen has been dealing with all of her youth, let alone having to lie about her cycle and try and deter this horrible, trusting man in her life. Second, I'm beyond grateful we have humans such as Old Soul to provide a safe place, empathy, sympathy, and physical and mental care for situations like this. Here, here. Third, you said if you said you were the father in this circumstance, you would feel bad. I'm different. If that were my daughter, I would kill a motherfucker. Well, I didn't exactly say I'd just feel bad. I said somehow that gentleman would suffer a terrible accident. So we're kind of on the same page. Next, I always love your shows with Eric. He's cool. You two jive along with Ed. Those segments fly by. Tonight, I listened to your show with Tony. As long as I've listened to you, I don't remember Tony. I apologize. It's been a while since he's been on, so that's cool. Tony said a few things that raised my eyebrows, but I'm impressed how you can maneuver around all of us independent individuals. Couple of things Tony said, re Nikki Haley. It brings me back to our convo. She was polished, but I promise you, give these Republicans one more day to speak, they blow themselves up. I agree with that. Not only is Nikki a woman and an immigrant, but she's also anti-BLM, 100% pro-Israel, which lefties will not accept if she doesn't continue ceasefire via the pro-Palestinian movement, pro-life, and she literally just promised she would raise the age for Social Security. My question to her is, how are you going to tell your daughters they are in their 20s and they are going to have to work until 70 years to receive Social Security? It's a good point. Trump appeals. Listen to the judges and their questions via immunity. Not going to happen. Via Trump can stay on the ballot. Every judge, bipartisan, asked the questions. I listened to the entire audio. Shoot me now. Trump will stay on the ballot, and I think he should. As long as Trump is at the forefront, in the end, the RNC will have to scramble to find a leader by the time comes to vote. Brilliant minds think alike. The piece of shit dictator, deplorable human, will be in jail even before Aileen sycophant Cannon can try the case for espionage, which is why he already should have been lynched. I'm fighting my leftist friends on this whole genocide Joe shit. I have to speak layman's terms. If you don't vote for Biden, Palestine will fall. Point blank, period. Even though there is so much more to it. Anyway, my TikTok account got hacked. Why me, LOL? So my 1,000 followers are now back to 100. It's okay. New year, new start. I'd love to jump on your show again soon to chat how Oregon ousted Republicans from their puerile behavior or their puerile behavior. Sorry for the long email. Wanted to let you know I'm still around listening and engaged. Love, Christy. Christy, you'll remember, was on the show. She did a great show. Very sharp woman, very articulate woman. And Christy, the sooner you can come back and be on the show, the better. Sounds like you and I are on the same page on a lot of things. So we appreciate your input. All right. I think this is the last one we have. And we're going to wrap things up at this point. Hi, Boomer. I heard you talking to Old Soul last night. You were complaining about the special investigator that was assigned to investigate Joe Biden. It is apparently the custom to assign a prosecutor from the opposite party. When Robert Mueller investigated Trump, it was the first time that a Republican investigated a Republican. Her went way over the top, should never have gone beyond the facts, and is not qualified to make any judgment on Biden's mental condition. I hope you have seen the press conference where Joe Biden reacted to the report. You're right. You're so right. He's pissed. Yeah, Joe's pissed. And so is Kamala. Did you see her speech? She said that this was basically politically motivated. Kamala was pissed too. I hope you've seen the press conference where Joe Biden reacted to the report. He is pissed. You might be right that Garland will be replaced, but I suspect there'll be some sort of response beyond the presser to that investigator over that report first. I think the AG needs to be more aggressive type who will be much more proactive. Thank you, Grandma Patty. Well, you're right, Grandma Patty. And the thing about it is that we need somebody who's not afraid of public opinion because it's absolutely ridiculous. I've got two more short emails. Hey, Boomer, I'm loving the old soul days. I'm ready to acquit this child's father right now. He cannot be held responsible for what he does to his little girl's rapist. I wish his family the best outcome. I wish the rapist the worst. Gussie. And then there's Peg. She says, I'd love to see Jack Smith as the replacement for AG. We need a bulldog, not a PAB, a pussy ass bitch like the Federalist Society's Merrick Garland. Thanks again, Peg. Oh, one last one. This is a comment on the podcast page. Comes from Catherine. About the hold part of the argument from Trump's side. I'm reminded of the Seinfeld episode about reservations. Anyone can just take a reservation, but you got to be able to hold a reservation. Excellent point, Catherine. All right. We're about ready to wrap things up, and we did it. The whole goddamn show was emails. It helps me because I'm doing this in advance, and it's important for me to get all the emails out there so people get to have their say. And I think it's a valuable part of the show. So keep the emails coming, rationalboomer@gmail.com. If you want to be on the show, same email address, just let me know. All right. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.